McEwan. I identify as queer and I live in St Kilda. Pride to me is a very personal thing, but it's part of a journey for me anyway. It was a journey. When I grew up, I knew I was different. I knew I had something to hide. And in that are the seeds of shame. And shame corrodes the spirit. And I grew up never expressing myself. Didn't know what it was, but I knew I had to be vigilant. And that crippled me until I learnt that no, I wasn't evil, I wasn't sinful, I wasn't sick. I may have been illegal, but too bad. I was a good person until I learnt that I was good and I was okay. Once I had that, I had pride. And to me, having said that, it's important to go out in the street and tell that to the world. And that's where we get the celebration of pride. But it starts with that individual journey all of us have to take. I guess my proudest moment was in sometime in May 2016, the Victorian government, the Andrews government, had introduced expungement legislation, and they decided there needed to be an apology from all of Parliament to all those men who had been arrested for decades and dragged through the courts and their behaviour criminalised for something that was not now illegal. And there was a formal apology. They were seeking to have faces to give to that apology, and I was reluctant to do that. My story of having been arrested when I was a 17-year-old schoolboy and dragged through the courts and past psychiatrists and threatened with being sent away was something I thought that I had got over, but I have a very extensive family and most of the 28 odd nephews and nieces had never heard that story, never knew. And I thought to myself, why am I reluctant to go fully public again so many years later, because this was 1967 and 2016, I had to prove to myself that I didn't feel shame. And that's why I did it. It's actually a personal thing. And when my brothers and sisters joined me on the steps of Parliament House and we ended up on the front page of The Age, it was a big day. Well, kindness in the sense of we are a very, very diverse community, and I think it's terribly important that we accept our own diversity, because it's so easy to define ourselves by how we are different, not by what we share. And once we can agree on what we share, we can go out and then celebrate it. So that's what I mean by kindness within our community. 78ers movement, really, what I'd like people to know was that we were commemorating in 1978 at the 4th National Homosexual Conference. We were appalled by the arrests that had happened with the first Mardi Gras on the 24th of June that year, when some 43 people got arrested. And in support of them, we marched down Oxford Street on a Sunday morning, and we were baton charged by the police. And some 103 people, I think, were arrested, and their names and their occupations and their addresses were printed in the Sydney Morning Herald. And that meant that people lost their jobs. So it became very important. But the 78 was really a series of events. And although I wasn't there at the original, very first march, I was there for the march in support of them in August of that year. It is important to know where we've come from, just as important to any community. And I really like the fact that we grew out of a protest. Not many people know that Mardi Gras was actually a Stonewall celebration. On the 24th of June every year, we celebrated Stonewall. And Stonewall itself happened on the 24th of June, 1969. And that was a watershed day for our own consciousness. It also happened to be the day that Judy Garland was buried. There was such grief out there in the community. It was a very hot night. All the drag queens and there were street people, transsexuals. They came out to those illegal bars on a hot, hot night, and they were grieving and they're celebrating her life. And the police came in and they said, no, enough. And they fought back for the first time. And that's what we commemorated on Stonewall. And Stonewall came to Australia, we commemorated it here, and it became Mardi Gras. And this is where we are today. I do. It's Gloria Gaynor, I Will Survive. I looked it up this morning, and it turns out it came out in 1978.